Every life has a story, and every story is worth sharing. Your story, my story, and our story speak of victory and defeat, joy and sorrow, resilience and vulnerability. They are not just our story, they are Christ's story in us. They are Kingdom Stories from Down Under.
Every Saturday morning I have the amazing opportunity to go and see my children play soccer. On the sideline, as the children play, we have a great opportunity to meet other parents. Among those wonderful parents that I've met, there was a young man who was always encouraging the team, yelling out and, really prompting them to do their very best. And we started talking, we started chatting. And I asked him if he has a podcast. Surprisingly, he did. And I said to him, would you like to come to my podcast as well? And he answered. And here we are today at Kingdom Stories from Down Under. I am privileged to have Tim Wood. Welcome, Tim.
Yeah, so good to be here.
How often does it happen? How often does it happen that you meet somebody who's got a podcast?
I know, right? You beat me to it. I thought you were saying that you had a podcast, and I was like, oh, I have a podcast, and then we just gelled.
I think I told you that I have a podcast,
yeah.
But then you said I do, and then I realized, okay, he's got it.
Yeah, exactly, right. Everyone's going crazy on the sidelines.
Yeah.
It's a bit windy.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's good.
So, what's this podcast, right? Let's give it a pitch from the first minute.
Oh dear. Okay. Yes. So, I set up a podcast. When was it? Only a couple of months ago, just to basically explore strategies on how to survive school. I came to this realization that I'd been in school for 25 years.
You never left school.
I never left school. I did my schooling, and then I went in to do my bachelor's degree in ministry, and then I
went back to school.
Went back to school, and then I now work at a school as a chaplain. But then I'm also studying a master's degree at a university in Melbourne called Deakin.
Yeah.
And I've never left school. And then as I've just been working with different people in the education sort of sector, I realized that there's a lot of people that may not be surviving as well as they could be.
So who is it for? Is it for students, for teachers, for chaplains?
I think the goal is that it is specifically for an adult population, not necessarily students.
Yeah.
And it's designed just to help people with, I guess, general life skills. So I've done some things on communication. I've done some things on just friendships and building friendships. I guess we're not moving as much anymore in this day and age, but definitely when the borders open up and when you can travel a bit more and move, I'm sure that there's necessity.
So how many episodes have you done so far?
I think I'm sitting on 5 episodes.
Oh, well done.
Very fresh.
So monthly, bi-weekly?
The goal was to do it weekly. But
you didn't realize how difficult
it is. It's hard. I don't have the stamina like yourself. I'm still learning this game.
We didn't know what we signed up for. But we thought, 3 podcasts a week, a fluke. Yeah. Man, it's like iceberg.
Oh, absolute kudos to you, because it is hard, and
it's work.
It's discipline.
Yeah, it's work, and you've got to. Whether you feel like it or you don't like it, you got to have the grit to just get up and do it when that alarm pops up, and you got to call the people and interview them. And it's sometimes very difficult to interview, to find the right people. And it's because either initially they didn't know what I was doing at Kingdom Stories, so I didn't have enough backing. They didn't. Now it's easier because there's enough episodes there. Then they thought, well, why should I give my story away? Why should I become vulnerable, What do I lose here? What's in it for me? Well, not much. What do I lose here? Then they count the loss. But those who have come on board have blessed many people. And they've also benefited because when they share their story, there's something that is released out there. And it's also, it empowers them in their journey as well. And I mean, outside this, the ripple effect is massive because it does bless many people.
Absolutely. I can testify to that. I've had a good listen to
Yeah.
some of the podcasts, and I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, getting to hear stories from, down under. It's been great.
From people. Yeah, and because of COVID, we're all here.
Yeah.
So we have enough people to interview. And I just thought, the beauty with Kingdom Stories is that it's not just pastors or leaders. There are very common people who do amazing works and whose stories are just remarkable. Everybody's story is beautiful.
Yeah.
Just somebody has to go out there and dig it out.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing tonight. I've listened to that podcast on communication. Fantastic. Well done. Well done. Very structured. You went to the point and practical examples, which are always, always beautiful because you will always remember the examples and the examples will take you to the concept. And then that takes traction in your life, which is beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful. And you have a beautiful wife who supports you.
I do.
Which is just amazing.
Yeah, she's good. Kelsey. This November, married for 10 years.
Ah, well done. We're 20, but that's all right.
Yeah. I had grand plans for a big sort of celebration for
a cruise.
10th year anniversary, travel the world, do something. We might be camping.
Oh, that's nice. There's some beautiful luxurious clamping up there.
Absolutely.
So you can't spoil yourselves.
Yeah.
Wonderful. When is it?
That is November 19th. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
It's still cool enough.
It is. It is. It's a great time of year.
So did you grow up in Perth or in Melbourne?
I grew up in Melbourne, yeah. So grew up actually country Victoria and then moved to Melbourne when my parents remarried. And
so where were you born?
I was born in Leongatha.
Leongatha. I'm sure I would have passed through it.
So yeah, it's a little speck on the map. But
on the way to where?
Oh,
what road?
Don't really know which road. There's you've got the Princess Freeway.
So it is east of Melbourne, isn't it?
Yeah, southeast. It's basically the bottom of Australia.
Peninsula.
Before you get to the
before you
island. Before you turn on to Tasmania. Yeah.
They haven't got a bridge there yet, have they?
Yeah, no, we haven't got a bridge or a tunnel or anything as of yet.
So your parents split up when you were young?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember anything?
So when was it? Probably when I was around 13, 14, I sort of discovered a bit more of my story. And so parents split up when I was basically born. So that was...
You have older siblings?
I do. I have an older brother. So he's 4 years older. And...
so he would have been affected a lot more than you were.
Yeah, that's right. He was very connected with Dad, and then Mum and Dad got divorced, and then we would visit him fortnightly, but he was on the other side of the state, so it was always long travel. He was in Echuca, so we were the south, he was the north of the state, so we would just do a lot of commuting when we were younger.
So who would take you there?
It was a halfway 50-50 split. So
both ways.
We would there was a drop off location and then we
pick
would
up.
Yeah. So it was, look, we learnt to enjoy the car trips and had a lot of fun. But it wasn't the most glamorous time of life. I mean, particularly when you're sharing your weekends, and as you grew up you wanted to be more social and you would have friends and parties and different things you want to go to, and you were either going to Dad's house or you had to do something family related, so that was a challenge.
And did your mum remarry?
Yes, so both Mum and Dad remarried in the same year in 2000. I was 10 years old, so you can start to figure out the timeline. And my brother was 14, and when Mum remarried, he remarried a very solid Christian man, and he created a lot more structure for us as a family. Having grown up for 10 years with a single mum basically, and a brother. We sort of ruled the roost a bit, and so it was a bit odd and took a lot of adjusting.
Yes.
For another male figure in the house.
Sure.
I took much better. My older brother was in his teens, so he was going through big changes himself.
Yeah. Very testing times.
Yeah.
Was your mum a believer before as well?
Yes.
And your dad, your biological dad?
Dad was not. No. So he remarried a Christian lady.
Mm-hmm.
So she had a Pentecostal background.
Yeah.
My mum had a Christian Reformed background.
Yes.
But then she was going to a uniting church, and most of my friends were at the Anglican church. So I grew up really confused.
Yeah.
Where I fit in the whole scheme of theology in the church, because every service I went to was different.
Of course.
So yeah.
And when your dad came in, the new father, where did you go? Still at the United Church?
Yeah, so when Mum and Steve is my stepdad, when they remarried, we moved to the outer eastern suburbs of Melbourne.
Came to Melbourne.
So, we moved from Leongatha up to a place called Mount Evelyn. It's basically the end of the train line.
Okay, yeah.
And we then went to a Christian Reformed church. That's where he was.
How did your mum and dad meet, your stepdad?
Well, they met at a singles convention, a Christian singles convention, which was kind of like the meat market, where you went there for to grow in your faith and things like that. And
yes, a dating ground.
Meet a spouse.
Do they still run those, or it's all done online
question.
now?
I don't think they do.
It's probably done online.
It's online. Yeah, it's a thing of the past. But from what I understand, it was always quite good.
For them.
It was successful for my parents.
Yeah. Great. And moving to town was nice for you? Did you enjoy being near Melbourne?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
obviously.
the area is really nice up there in the hills, mountains, Dandenong Mountains.
Yep. Did love it. Absolutely loved it. It was kind of sad leaving friends. I had quite a strong friendship base in Leongatha.
You were quite social as well.
Quite social. I moved to Mount Evelyn, and it was just a bit of a change, but still, fit in, started playing basketball, started to connect with, people there.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Were you coming into Melbourne a lot? Footy or any sports, or just coming to the city?
Well, good question. We didn't travel a whole heap in Melbourne, into Melbourne, until I basically... So I'm a drummer. So I had about 8 years of drum lessons, then started a 3-piece rock band with 2 other friends from our church. And
are your kids drummers?
No, thankfully.
Do you want to train Isaac? He loves drums. He's crazy about drums.
Oh, the boys do love drums. We got a little cajon at home, and all 3 of them want to take turns. So whenever we have family worship time, the boys are drumming away, which is always good. But the full rock 5-piece drum kit, it's a bit wild.
Yeah, nice.
We're living in a unit, so it's the neighbours wouldn't love us.
No. You can get electric drums these days, but still.
That's true.
So music, church music, or more school music, band music?
We played primarily originals, so we were young, and the lead singer had, a lot of girl troubles. So often the songs took the shape of a breakup or something like that. Until then, I had a chance to inform some of the songwriting, and it sort of started to move towards more of a spiritual, sort of faith-based songs. But the band was inspired by Green Day and The Living End and a lot of those kind of sort of heavier rock sort of bands. And So it was interesting trying to marry the two together. We did a few gigs in Melbourne, and we played at a few different places, and we're at it for probably 3 years, and then I think I got married and had a child on the way. The bass player wasn't always into it, and so the lead singer was just left to to his own devices. So we sort of split up and went our own ways.
What school did you go to? What high school?
I was at Mount Evelyn Christian School, which is both primary and high school, but it's a smaller school. So when I started, there would have been 300 students across the whole lower and upper school. By the time we finished, there probably would have been 600. So it did grow quite a bit over the time we were there.
Great school in the sense of discipline and not much bullying, drugs.
It was a good school. I think I was probably the biggest problem in school. No, I wasn't that bad, but I did find the
restrictions
challenging. I did find the boundaries and step over them quite frequently as a teenager.
Yeah. Rebellious or just playful? Childish.
Probably a little bit of both. I did go through a bit of a rebellious. I think it all started off playful, and I wasn't a malicious kind of person in terms of bullying or violence or anything like that. But I did try and sort of enter into the party scene, and I tried to, I guess, connect with the smoking behind the oval and the drinking culture and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think it was primarily a fantastic school. There was a small minority, but I did find it, and sort of hung out in there for a little bit whilst I was trying to figure out who I was and what life was about. So, yeah.
When did you have a true encounter with God?
I'd say
during high school?
Yeah, that was about year 10. So at the time, I was dating two girls at once, and
it happens.
And life was messy, and I was a hurting boy looking for love, and I think I got quite sick with glandular fever. It's sort of nicknamed as the kissing disease. And that was, I was 3 weeks bedridden, where, my throat had swollen up. I had to drink all my food and things like that. And at that point, as I was reflecting and thinking, I do really feel like God informed my thoughts and spoke to me and said, is this where you want to end up? Do you want to keep going on in this life of partying and, I guess, shallow living and things like that? And I had this image of teenage pregnancy and all these sort of things that I was just like, actually, no, I don't want that. I want something else. And I think at that point in time, there was also the local church where I'd sort of strayed from the church at that point, and the local church, and particularly the youth pastor, started to connect up with me a bit and sort of say, how can we help you? You're obviously unwell. A lot of my party friends, they were not around. They only cared for me when I was fun. But the church actually rallied around me when I was, quite down and at my lowest. Yeah. And I think that's really when God started to make changes in my heart.
Was it an encounter, or was there a step-by-step or a process kind of thing?
Yeah,
I would pinpoint it, or
I would say there was multiple encounters.
Yeah.
Where there was particular moments, in very random circumstances where, it informed my faith. But I'd say it was a process in the sense that there was no one major thing that was like a nighttime, daytime contrast.
Yeah.
There was many conversations, particularly with my now wife, who was just a concerned bystander at the time, she started to, you know, explain the Bible and the gospel to me in ways that I probably wasn't ready to hear yet.
She was in the youth, or
She was the pastor's
daughter?
the youth pastor's daughter. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So she started talking about, you know, like morals and ethics and things like that, and
You had no such campus,
I had ears to hear from a woman, but
not from
a
dad.
man, not from any males or dad or anyone else, and I think that was partly how God used, who God used to shape me and my faith. Her dad was very pivotal as well in my journey of discipleship. I can remember, they came from YWAM, so they were a missionary family.
Yeah. Great.
So they were 11 years in Holland, and he was
Australians or from England?
They are Australian, so they left when Kelsey was 4, moved to Holland.
Yeah.
Her dad and mum did a DTS in Holland, and then from there, they came back, and he took a role in the church that my parents were going to.
Yeah.
And she was a good missionary girl that I didn't think much of.
Yeah.
And he was and I was, just a rat bag that was just looking for mischief. And we both didn't like each other because she wouldn't give me what I wanted, and I wouldn't give her what she wanted.
Yeah. How old were you?
So when
17,
she
18?
came, she was 6. We were both 16, so
Yeah.
we're both year 10, and she sort of saw me at my worst.
Yeah.
And then after the sickness and when I was 17, year 11, that was where a lot of the key discipleship happened. Where I was, we went to a conference called Soul Survivor. So that was quite informative. There was a number of times where we would have some ministry times, and there was prophecies spoken over me about leadership and about ministry, and at the time that was kind of quite freaky and sort of like
untouchable.
No, that's not me, because I'm not that kind of person.
You got it wrong, mate. You're not a prophet.
Correct. And I thought, and I guess over that year I could see myself changing and going, hey, maybe there is something there, but it was never pastoral ministry. That was the guy on stage. I was always the person in the back row, I'd never spoken to the pastor before, kind of thing. And so then years down the track, to see that those seeds that were sown and the prophecy that was made was
real.
It was real. Yeah, it was.
Did you get baptized?
I was baptized as an infant. So the denomination that we were a part of was infant baptism.
Okay.
And so that was
done and dusted.
Done and dusted, one baptism. We don't get rebaptized.
Okay.
That kind of thing. And so that's actually been a unique journey in and of itself.
Yeah.
The whole baptism thing, because our firstborn, Judah, is baptized, and then our other two are dedicated.
Okay.
And so
that's interesting.
So Judah's claim to fame, we've got Judah, Asher, and Zion.
Yeah.
Judah's claim to fame is that the other boys aren't baptized, and he is, and he's...
the others are circumcised.
He's superior. But no, we joke about it a lot at home. And my firm belief was to be submissive to the leadership of
the church that you were under.
So that's going to be a tricky thing to navigate with our kids as we move in.
And look, you're on the journey, and
Absolutely.
God will not leave you in darkness in regards to that. And when did you fall in love with your wife?
Whew, I would say when I was 17, I hadn't been a week without a girlfriend for the past 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Kelsey was like, I don't believe you could go a whole year without a girlfriend.
She said to you?
Yeah, she said that. And she challenged me, and I'm a very, competitive person.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll prove you wrong.
Bring it up.
I'll go a whole year. But I think that was my ploy to try and
get to her,
win her over. So after 3 weeks, I was
She was
like,
hard to get.
Yeah.
All the others were easy to get.
totally.
This was now a trophy
I know.
challenge for you.
She was something else. So that was the biggest challenge, was trying to figure out, okay, how do I win this girl over? And after 3 weeks, she was not giving her heart away, not to some schmuck.
No.
So she was resolute, and I was sort of like,
Clean for a year.
come on, and she's like, no, not happening, like, and so yeah, after she challenged me mid-January,
Yes.
and it was the start of December we started dating.
Wow.
So I
Good on
lost,
her. Good on her.
but I won. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it was really special. It was the first time where I actually became friends with someone before I dated them, and I think that was pivotal to.
It was good for you.
Our relationship. It was healing, and even in our dating life, she had very firm boundaries. She was very much like. She would not share everything emotionally with me. She would always share with her dad about a lot of the deep things, and until I was trusted, ready, and she knew that I was going to be her lifelong partner, she was not going to let me in easy, and I think that was really helpful for me.
Yeah.
I think it was quite godly too, in the sense that she reserved the most intimate places of her heart for God and for, I guess, essentially for her father, which
Was passed on.
Was passed on in
to
marriage.
the future husband.
And that was special.
And you're grateful for that because everything was preserved for you in a sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think the level of respect for her skyrocketed for you.
Absolutely.
And still is up there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful.
What
a lesson, for others as well who are just, not serious enough about, marriage and relationships, and they think that there's no chance, or, there is. You can make it right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's also something that I spend a lot of time. Currently, I work as a chaplain at a high school, and there's often young girls with their dating boy problems that come to me, and I just always take
Tell them a story
to remind them. I tell them the story of Kelsey, and I remind them that you're not cheap.
That's right.
Yeah, so don't give yourself away cheaply.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for young women, young girls to understand their value and not be pressured into, I guess, that sort of culture where they're just consumed as an object.
Yeah.
And Kelsey, she taught me a lot about that because I was the problem.
Yeah. And her dad also believed in her and in you, to journey, to put in the hard yakka.
Absolutely.
They must have seen something in you, or God must have revealed something to them about you.
I'd have to say so, because I wasn't much to look at initially.
Yeah. And then you had the courage to go and ask for her hand. Did you actually ask her dad?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was three weeks before I asked her. I spoke to him, and
just you and him, man to man.
Yeah, man to man. And I'd heard other stories of it going really bad, so I was quite nervous.
Of course. But good nervous.
But he was almost the one encouraging me.
Yeah.
To go for it.
Yeah.
I think after spending so much time discipling me over.
So you were about 19 now?
I proposed to Kelsey when I was 20.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were dating from basically 18. So 18, 19, 20. So for 3 years.
Wonderful.
And then we were engaged for a year. Married at 21.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you kept yourself clean during this time, which is amazing.
Yeah. God kept me clean, yeah.
No, I mean, it is.
Yeah.
Because if somebody starts young, it's very difficult. Only God can help you, The temptation is, the temptation would have been always to go somewhere,
Yeah.
I mean, there were so many easy girls out there.
Yeah.
and it would be effortless, really.
Absolutely. I think the first. So I always talk about how when I stopped dating, I left Egypt.
Yeah,
But Egypt hadn't left me.
that's
and
right.
So, and so Egypt was sort of in me. And when I asked Kelsey,
you craved some of the food in Egypt.
I was wanting the garlic and the herbs. And I spoke to Kelsey. I said, Kelsey, will you go out with me? Will you date me? And she said yes. And then I went to kiss her, thinking, that's what you do.
And
She put me in a headlock.
Wow.
Not till we're married. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like this woman.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
some people think, wouldn't that turn them off? No, that was
I needed
huge
this.
incentive.
Yeah.
I thought this is someone with values and principles and
With balls.
and I'm not ashamed to admit that I think the first 3 years of our dating relationship, she led me.
Yeah.
She was the leader. She was the one who was setting the boundaries, setting the pace. She was the one encouraging me, pushing me, supporting me, and
you allowed the process, which is just amazing.
And then and then I guess as I grew, then I started taking the lead, and then she grew, and then I grew, and I think that's been huge in our.
And she held you in that leadership because you had her backing always. That's where you could stand.
Yeah.
Before you wouldn't have been able to stand, even if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Those values were not there, so they had to be, mined out of you in a sense. They were probably deposited in there.
Yeah.
But nobody allowed them to flourish in you.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
She must have seen something. She must have had, to have that patience. She must have believed in God a lot more than you knew.
Most definitely, because she did not like me to begin with.
Yeah.
And actually the beginning of the process was that my brother's girlfriend at the time was mentoring Kelsey, and my brother and I were very close. And my brother's girlfriend said to Kelsey, please pray for him. Yeah. Keep praying for him, because he needs prayer and he needs God. And I sort of think that I thank her, because it sort of tenderized her heart a little bit towards maybe what God has for me.
Nice. And then after you spoke to her dad, you went and asked her 3 weeks later?
Yep.
And did she say yes?
She did.
First off?
It was, it was, I'll admit it was not the most glamorous proposal. It had potential to be glamorous.
Yeah.
We're on the Yarra River. We're in a little secluded little bushwalk area, and we set up a little picnic, and I had a little
up your way or further down?
Up our way, so it was not so
wide,
gross and brown, but it was a bit more nice and clean water.
Yeah.
And everything was ready, set, and then it starts raining as Melbourne does, and it was wet and there was puddles, and we sort of were there set up, and it's like, I can't. The only thing on my mind was,
I've got to ask it,
but it's raining.
Yeah.
And I can't do it now because we're stressing out and we're cleaning everything up. So we run back to the car. We're all wet, and then we're sitting in the car, and like the windows all fogged up in the car because of all the wetness, and probably because I was sweating so much to actually ask the question. And I just said to Kels, look, it's come to a point in our relationship where we either break up or we get married. So what do you think? I gave her the ultimatum, and I think I was just so nervous that I just didn't think too much about the how. Yeah, I was thinking about the what and not the how, and she said yes. She snuggled into my shoulder, and we then went to a local shopping centre to buy the ring, because I knew that she had a particular taste.
Yeah.
And so we went there and had a great night and shared with our families and celebrated. So
wow, beautiful. I actually asked my wife to marry me up at Olinda.
Oh,
just down the road.
Really? Yeah.
And just as she said yes, it started raining, and we had a picnic at Olinda Golf Course.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, just as she said yes, it started raining, so we had to pack up everything and run in the car and drive home. But I just got in there in time.
Yeah, and well done. I was not quick enough.
So we must have been just a few miles away.
Yeah. That
Wow.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you went to uni to study ministry, or what was your first degree?
Yep. So Bachelor of Ministry. So finished high school, took a gap year, went to YWAM, did a DTS. So
great.
We went to Germany, and we were in Herrenhut, East Germany.
Both of you?
We both went. We did separate outreaches.
As a husband and wife now, or not yet?
No, so that was when we were 19.
Okay. So where were you in Germany?
We were in Herrenhut, in just below Dresden.
Nice.
And so then we did the same lecture phase for 3 months, and then we did separate outreaches as it was recommended by the base and things like that. So I went to Egypt and Kenya, and she went to Thailand.
Awesome.
That was wonderful. We came back. During the time in Egypt, I felt God share with me, like I had a dream.
Mm-hmm.
So I fell asleep in the minibus on the way from Cairo to Alexandria.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a 6-hour journey.
it was quite a trek, yeah. And I fell asleep because there's just desert.
I know.
Not much.
I've done the trip.
There's not much to see.
No.
And I just had a picture of me standing on a stage,
Yeah.
teaching, and this was the strangest thing because I bombed my Year 12 speech. I was not a clear communicator. I had no idea how to speak in public, and so that was bizarre. And then I just had this phrase in my head that was like, Tim, go back and set Mount Evelyn on fire. And that was set Mount Evelyn on fire.
Mount Evelyn. Okay.
Like spiritually, metaphorically speaking. I mean, it is like bushland up there, but
you don't want to set it on fire.
No. So then went back and did an internship with the church in Mount Evelyn. And then
This is a Uniting Church?
Reformed Church. So Mount Evelyn Reformed Church, Christian Reformed Church.
Dutch background?
Yes. Yep. Okay. So very European.
Is your wife Dutch? But
yes.
They are.
Yep. Yeah. So I've got half my mum's side is all Dutch. Mm-hmm. My dad's side is English, and Kelsey's family's Dutch. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then did an internship part-time and studied part-time at Melbourne School of Theology.
Great.
And did a Bachelor of Ministry there. It was a 6-year.
Cool. And that's Presbyterian, is it?
That is, it is non-denominational, but there's different. The one lecturer came from an Anglican background. There was this quite
a good school.
Eclectic mix of people. Yeah.
Great.
So then from there, continued working at the church. The joke is that I first took my father-in-law's daughter.
And then the church.
Then I took his job because I became the youth pastor in his stead. And he trained me up because I was doing an internship under him. Yes. And he felt my job's done. So he went to take a position in another church. And then, I took his grandchildren because I moved
to Perth.
Over to Perth.
So the kids were born there, two of the boys
so
or one?
Judah was born in Melbourne.
That's why you baptized him?
Yeah, and then the other two here.
Okay.
So,
So why move to Perth?
So when I graduated from the Bachelor of Ministry, I was speaking with a pastor here in Perth, and he was like, "Why don't you come, work with me and join this little church plant." At the time when we met, the church plant was I think a year old or 2 years old
in Maylands.
So it was in West Perth at the time, and then it moved to Leaderville whilst I was working.
This is Sun Life Church.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
The Vietnamese guy. He came out of Faith Communities Church.
He FCC. He spent some time there. I think his background is from the Vecca Church, so the Vietnamese evangelical.
Okay, wonderful. But faith helped them plant that church.
That's right. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful inner city sort of church
Yeah.
that catered for people in apartments living near the city, didn't it?
Yeah.
There was some people walking there. It was a connecting point.
Yeah, there was definitely people living sort of in North Perth or North Bridge, sort of in that close proximity. And I think then it began to reach people. There was people from Mandurah and Joondalup and different people coming.
Yeah.
That sort of city-centred model. And then we grew out of the building. At the time I was running the
Youth.
kids and youth and the kids ministry. There was 2 small rooms for the kids ministry, and it just, it was packed in there.
Yeah.
So kids ministry looked like watching a video, because if someone moved, there would be, someone would be trampled or something like that. Anyway, so
it was that dense.
It was dense. The population density was very good in the kids ministry. We moved to the new building and it was amazing. Yeah.
At Cleaver Street in West Perth?
No, that was moved from Cleaver Street to Leaderville.
Okay.
Oxford Street.
Okay.
So that's right near Arranmore Catholic College. And
a bit up the road.
The building is, it's fantastic.
So you're there now still?
That's where Sun Life is. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
And you're still ministering there? No, you're at a different church.
Yeah. So at the end of last year, we made the decision to step back from ministry.
Yeah.
Just take a time of reflection. And I then took on I was doing a part-time role in chaplaincy, and then took a full-time role in chaplaincy, and just to spend some time with kids, reflect, and I guess just figure out next steps.
Are you still involved with the church, or are you just participating on Sundays?
Yeah, absolutely. So we sort of started, and it's a bit odd, sort of finishing high school, and then just that's all you've ever known, ministry.
Yeah.
You sort of feel like, what do I do?
That's right. I can't stand still.
So we, I joined the welcome team. I'd never been on the welcome team before.
Nice.
And that was a thrill. And play the drums, or the little cajon. Mm-hmm. We meet at the Bayswater Bowls Club. So it's a church plant called it's Providence Bayswater. So
nice.
Yeah,
is it a Church of Christ?
It is independent.
Okay.
It's an independent church. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it sits within the Providence Churches network.
So is that right next to the soccer club, just across that park there, off Garrett Road, or not? Or you're up Cood Street? Yes.
It is Garrett Road. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was thinking of where our boys play soccer. I'm like, no, not that soccer field. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay. It's right there, and it's been great. So.
And Adrian goes there as well.
Adrian does, yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
He was the one who got us connected on the soccer team in the first place.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you settled in Perth, you're doing your Masters in Education?
In Leadership.
Leadership?
Yep.
At Deakin? Okay,
yep.
Wonderful. And what's your wife doing?
She is being a mum
at the moment.
Yeah.
Did
when I was studying, she was studying full time, and she did a Bachelor of Nutrition and Dietetics.
Wow.
At Monash Uni. So
that's phenomenal.
She's always had an interest in, I guess, healthcare, and
that's why you live so well.
That kind of thing. Yeah, I know. That's right. We live in the high life.
That's right.
So she's as the boys. Her commitment was, I'm not going to go back to work until our youngest is
in school,
beyond 2, at least.
Yeah.
So that's coming up in May next year,
and
then we'll be able to figure out, okay, what does that look like? It's been a bit of time since she's been in that world, and nutrition and dietetics, that moves fast, and it's you need to.
The basics are still there.
Absolutely,
but it's like in coaching and in chaplaincy and everything. You get it if you're sharp within weeks.
And she's sharp.
It's the lingo.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the art of language.
That's right.
Knowing how to language it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah.
She's, from what I've seen, she's very composed, but very bubbly.
Yeah.
She has a strong identity and just thrives being around the boys, around the kids.
Yeah.
it's beautiful to see women who love being mothers. And you and I are very blessed in that regards because
Absolutely.
our wives just love that motherhood. It's not a chore, it's not a drag, it's a joy. It's, they love, they're in their element. And I think that's really beautiful. And then for us, it's a, it's a joyride.
Totally. It's. I think for Kelsey, it was hard. Like she really.
Well, 3 boys in
fought
4 years.
tooth and mouth to. I was the one who always wanted kids, and I wanted like 6 kids.
Yeah. Well, you got
I
half.
actually wanted more, but she only wanted 2, and so we sort of tried to meet in the middle with 4. But after the second one, I think 3 is fantastic. But she was much more the go-getter, professional. I was like, I'm happy to be the house
Staying
husband.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that. And she, when she was thrust into motherhood, she was like, I can't do this. And after the first one, that was hard. I think she found a groove with the second one, and she really repurposed and re-understood her calling as a mum for the season. And she just grabbed it with both hands, and like
well,
you said,
I've only met her,
Yeah.
obviously with 3 kids and just thriving and enjoying every moment with them, and it's beautiful to see.
Yeah, it is. She's an excellent mum.
Yeah, and to see them all 3 there at soccer, just kicking the ball around on the Saturday morning.
That's it.
Oh, it's delightful. It's delightful, mate. What's next for you? So you're finishing your degree. I mean, what would you like to do? I mean, there's so many options.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
absolutely.
What's on your heart?
Yeah. I've probably, since I started ministry, had this pretty deep burning desire to plant a church. That's been a big thing. I guess as I went through Bible college and as I've worked in different ministry contexts, the shape of this idea of church and the way that I would do it is becoming clearer and clearer of how and why and what it would look like. And so I think I'm sort of at the point where I've got a quite clear picture of what I believe God wants me to do, like the unique shape in which the church He's calling me to start looks like.
Yeah.
But the big question is who. I think that's the biggest thing where
With whom?
Yeah, so it's just connecting and you meeting the right people. I think a church, an organization is only as good as its people and its leaders, and so I think the real key is to not just, I'm not the standalone kind of lone wolf pastor type. I do find a lot of joy in team-based leadership, and
so the fivefold would resonate with you.
I thrive in that. So so that's what I would be keen to pursue.
Wow. Imagine doing actually a first century kind of church in a modern sense, but having the apostles' teaching and prayer, breaking of bread and fellowship, focusing on discipleship, you know what I mean, and just focusing on the fivefold, having the equipping ministries, and just seeing what if it does work.
Yeah, I know. That'd be a shock. Yeah, no, absolutely, 100% agree, and I think one of the first messages I spoke at another church was around the early church and that passage where it was the blueprint for revival. Yeah, and that's sort of the theme that they wanted me to speak on was revival, and it was just the engine bay of the church where it's just Bible, like apostles' teaching, evangelism, prayer, worship. They're just all in awe. That sort of that picture, and it's always so exciting just to reflect back on this idea of church is not complicated. I don't think we can sometimes get bogged down in traditions and rituals and things like that. And traditions and rituals are critically important, but they're not the master. They're the
No, they're
servant.
the means, to
And
get
so
somewhere.
I think it's really exciting when I know some people are really called to be church revitalists, where they, revive the church, and they do a good job and they've got patience, and I'm happy to admit that I'm weak in that area.
Yeah.
I'm not an overly patient person, and I know God is growing me in patience, and it is fruit of the spirit.
Yeah.
But I do see my unique ability or calling, or just the way that I'm wired, is I hunger for a fresh slate, a clean thing. So
New season. Have you read The Pagan Church by Barna?
I haven't. I would like to. I haven't.
I'll make sure you get a copy.
Yeah.
Have you heard this? Have you read this book, 19 Coffee Lessons?
I've got it. I've got it downloaded. I got an e-copy.
It will mess you up.
Yeah. Okay.
So
very good.
Okay. It's interesting. You said something very important. I held a number of masterclasses on emotional intelligence in a business conference. It's called Business Days. 400 or 500 leaders come to these conferences, and I had the opportunity to speak on various topics on various panels. And one of the panels that I was with a number of leaders, and one of the guys who sold two businesses. One, he sold to Nestle. He made wafers and biscuits, and he sold to Nestle in Europe. And the other one, he sold, again, something very similar, but again to Kraft.
Yeah.
And they said, what is the most important question that you ask yourself when you start a business and you build it to these, millions of dollars to sell? What is the most vital question that you ask yourself? And he said, well, that's easy. Everyone was curious, because, this guy had the proof in the pudding. Yeah. He said, with whom?
Yeah.
With whom do I start this? Who am I going to build this business with? Because everything rises or falls on that. If people get along, most of the businesses break down because there's, arguments in the leadership or the, shareholders or the directors. And that's why with whom is so, so important. It's not necessarily the most skillful person, but if there's the chemistry to push through no matter what, and to have the common vision. You don't have to agree all the time. In fact, a bit of tension is healthy, but at least, even if I don't agree with you, once we made a decision, that's it, our commitment is full,
Yeah.
I'll argue with you until the decision, but if we reach a decision, and if even that decision is not my decision, I will push with you once we make the decision. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's hard to find such people because most people will either work against you, or they will not do anything, or, manipulate you, or, stab you in the back, or betray you. So with whom is important. Yeah. Looks like you understood that.
Well, I guess it's the missing piece of the puzzle. So I think that's, absolutely. There's been a lot of times where I've had those very experiences where, you've had great ideas of a future with someone, and sometimes they just don't work out the way
that's right
you initially thought. So it makes you a little more hesitant to who's I'm naturally a trusting person, and I think sometimes
you get hurt.
I don't critique enough.
That's why you have your wife.
Yeah, exactly.
They have right. a lot more wisdom and gut feeling and intuition.
Yeah.
What would you like your kids to remember you as?
Absolutely, I would like them to remember me as a worshipper.
As a worshiper.
As someone who
who worships.
Is wholeheartedly worshiping God. I think John Piper talks about this, that mission only exists because worship doesn't. and I think that for me is really significant. Like I want my boys, our children, image or mirror who we are,
Yeah.
and I want them to be people who are faithful and worshipping. And I think ultimately in heaven, that's what we're going to be doing. And obviously, worship isn't a song, but it's an all of life and a posture. And I think I just want them to see the heart and the why behind what I do.
Yeah.
And
The essence, the values,
Yeah.
the identity.
and I've said this to a number of people, like a number of friends. I said I couldn't care if I was a average. I wouldn't care if I was an average pastor or leader,
Yeah.
but a fantastic dad. I want them to see that as a father and as a loving heavenly Father,
Yeah.
our God delights in His children, and we respond in that awe and that worship. And I think I've failed big time on this earth. I think if I have a thriving ministry and my kids
Fail.
don't
see you.
know me, don't know me, don't see me, don't love me, don't want to be with me in my presence, and ultimately in God's presence, I think, that would be heartbreaking for me.
Well, that's not going to happen, because I think God has instilled these values in you, and they are a priority in you, and you pursue them every day. And every seed that you plant today will bear fruit in your children and your children's children. You're a young man, you're going to see probably 3-4 generations ahead.
Hopefully.
I mean, look, by the time you and I are old, we'll probably live past 100.
Yeah.
COVID is gone already.
Exactly.
Thanks so much, Tim, for joining me here at Kingdom Stories and just sharing your story, mate.
I've really enjoyed it, and I really appreciate it. It's been very encouraging, and I'm going to have to get you on my podcast. You know that, right?
Has to wash the other hand. That's right. I'd love to be there, mate. I'd love to do it. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you, friends, for joining us and listening to this beautiful story of overcoming the challenges of life and trusting God. I love Tim's legacy. He wants to be a fantastic father, a father who really shows his sons, his 3 sons, and maybe more, if the Lord has more in plan for him, that this father, Tim, is a true worshipper. Not just a singer, not just somebody who raises up his arms, but in every essence, a worshipper who loves God, is fully immersed in that relationship with God. God is his father, and out of that identity, he fathers them and loves them. And I pray that this inspires you, if you're a dad or a young man, to become one of those fathers who just immerses himself in who God is, and allow that love of God to permeate you and through you to those that need your love as well. And if you're a woman or a wife or a mother, just encourage your husband to become the very best he can be, just as Tim's wife helped him get to where he is today. I pray that this content blesses you, and I value it when you share it, subscribe, and just tell others about it. And if you have any suggestions on someone to appear here at Kingdom Stories from Down Under, just get in touch with us. You will find us on all the channels that you are consuming this content. We look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, become excellent fathers.
Thank you for joining us on Kingdom Stories from Down Under. We'd love it if you would subscribe, rate, and share these stories with your wider community. And remember, every story is worth sharing, including yours.